we on the Bryan Road now?
Yeah, this is the Bryan Road right
Bryan
here.
Road.
And so this is where the Boone cabin is, approximately that little red dot. And it was originally the Eaton tract. And he was the pastor of Timber Ridge Church.
So we're walking down to where Daniel Boone and Rebecca Bryan Boone, his wife, had a cabin. And this is the old road back to where the cabin went in present day Davie County.
Well, Mary Boland, who's head of the North Carolina Daniel Boone Trail, invited Dr. Ellen Cowan from Appalachian State University, who's a professor of geology, and her husband, whose name is Keith Sarimer, who is a ground penetrating radar expert and has a company, came down and did ground penetrating radar and also LIDAR, which is from the air, in order to get all the information they could about where things were. And in doing so, their report showed that the location of the cabin, which is right behind us, a privy, another outbuilding, and then the LIDAR showed where the old Morgan Bryan Road was that came right by the property. This was a very important feature. In fact, very important, because Rebecca Bryan Boone, her grandfather was Morgan Bryan, and so they had to have a road that would go to their house for just, with all the children they had. By that time they were caring for about 8 or 10 children. So when Daniel Boone was away on his trips, they had to have a way to get back and forth from the grandparents who took care of the children, helped her take care of the children. Well, thanks to Joe Myers, who owns the property now that we're standing on, his family came from his mother's family. His mother was a smith. And we know that going back to, I believe it was 1780, when the Confiscation Act was passed in the new state of North Carolina, that people were moving out of the area. So when they would move out and leave their land, they passed that law so the government could take the land over. And this is one of the pieces we believe that Morgan Bryan Jr. owned. And so they confiscated it because they pretty much considered all of the Bryans to be Tories. They really weren't. There was only one that was a major Tory, but they sort of lumped all the Bryan family in that group. So they confiscated this land, and then soon after that, Reverend Peter Eaton bought the land from the state of North Carolina, and he lived on this property for a while. His first wife was an Evans, and his second wife was a Smith. And of course, the Smith family is who the land came down through to the present owner, Joe Myers. And it's quite amazing because it's a pretty clear chain of title down to him. The Three Rivers Land Trust, headed by Travis Moorhead, is the organization that actually preserved this and put it in a land conservancy. And we're so grateful for them. They didn't have to do that. They do mostly farmland, but they made an exception to do this very important historic property, and it wouldn't be preserved if it weren't for them. So we owe them a great deal of thanks.
All right, Joe, tell us about the well behind you and bricks being used from the Boone chimney in the well.
The well was dug by my grandfather, Brian Smith. He used the chimney rock that was over here where the cabin was. He put it and lined the well with the rock.
The well was used for this house, which was Joe Myers' grandparents' house, which is directly adjacent to what would have been a cabin right here that we're looking at now, which sat here for Daniel and Rebecca Bryan Boone and their family at the junction of Sugar Creek and White Ford Creek, which was their known address in modern day Davie County.